We built this do-it-yourself power station that can provide off-grid power for a DIY camper, a camper van, or a truck camper. This DIY power station has alternator charging, solar charging, and wall outlet charging ability that you can also use at a campground. We built in features like 12-volt sockets, USB plugs, and 120-volt outlets from a 1000-watt pure sine wave inverter.
In today's video, we're going to show you step-by-step how we built this thing.
The first stage of our build for the portable power station for the camper is going to be to build the box. Our box is going to be made out of plywood. So I selected this plywood. I picked this up at Home Depot. This is 1/2-inch plywood. It was only $19, so it's pretty cheap. Here are the dimensions of the box that we're going to be building. 24 inches in total length, 11 inches tall, and 10¼ inches wide. All these parts need to live inside the footprint of the bottom, which is 24 by 10¼ We're not going to get the pure sine wave inverter on the inside of the box, but we're going to mount it to the outside of the box. Our first cut we're going to make at 23 inches. That's going to reduce this material in size so that we can use the table saw to finish it up. We're going to sand all these edges and get rid of all of our splinters with 120 grit sanding blocks.
All 5 pieces are cut now and sanded. We have the bottom, 2 sides, and 2 end caps.
We've got the box kind of held together so we can kind of see what it looks like. Now you can see why the front was cut a little shorter, because we're going to make the top of this box out of plexiglass, and our top is just going to slide right into those channels. We cut those channels on the table saw. Both sides and the back have the channels that will receive the plexiglass lid.
Now we have our box glued and pinned together. Next, we're going to put some screws in it.
I think we're going to use 1-inch drywall screws for these. I've got my countersink bit. We'll drill some holes, get them screwed in. It's about where we want to put the cooling fan. I've made a mark in the center. Exhaust fans installed on that end, and on our other end we have the vent. The wooden box for the camper power station is pretty much complete. We've got the box made, we've got our ventilation system has been installed. Now we're going to work on the business end of this power station. All of the 12-volt components are going to live on the front. We're going to drill some holes here. But first, let me show you what we have going on. Here's what I hope to make the front of the power station look like. The front of the box here is going to have a voltage meter, 2 12-volt cigarette lighter style plugs, 2 double USB plugs. We've got a couple of light switches. We have the vent that is going to allow air to escape from the box. And I think I'm going to mount the main power shutoff on the front of the box. I'm not going to surface mount it. I'm going to get tricky with it. After I finish mounting everything on the front of this power station, we'll start putting all of the components, like this Bluetooth lithium battery, inside the box. That's going to be the next step. But first, let's get to it. I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, LiTme Power. LiTime makes lots of lithium iron phosphate batteries in tons of group sizes and battery capacities. LiTime also makes inverters, chargers, and accessories. LiTime has power solutions for RVs, trolling motors and boats, golf carts, home energy, and off-grid applications. I'll put a referral link down in the video description, and LiTime has given you guys a discount. Use code FRED at checkout. The first 2 holes I'm going to drill are for these license plate lights. This is going to illuminate the entire front of the camper power station. Next, I'll drill these 3 holes. This is for the voltage meter and 2 12-volt plugs. For these holes, I'm using a conventional hole saw, 1.1 inch. Next, I'll drill these 2 USB plug holes, which are going to be the same size. For the 3 light switch holes, I'm going to use a 3/4 inch Forstner bit. The last hole we're going to drill is going to be for the main power switch. I have a 2-inch conventional hole saw. I'm going to drill through, and then we're going to have to do some work on the back to try to recess this thing. For the main shutoff switch, this actually doesn't look too bad, but I really want to have this come forward just a little bit more. I did some practicing on a piece of 1/2-inch plywood, and I don't think it's going to be that hard to bring this thing forward just a little bit. I think that looks pretty good. What do you guys think? I think that's going to look just fine. That's got all the holes drilled for the front of the camper power station. I'm going to start installing components now. The first ones are going to be these license plate lights, voltmeter, and 12-volt sockets. I didn't realize the voltmeter I bought is a different style. Looks like we're going to have to do a little work to get this thing flush. Up next are USBs. These 2 guys are going to slide right in there. Now we'll do our switches. O is off. I think I want the off in the down position, so I'm going to center these up to where the O is down. Next, we'll put on the vent. What I'm using for a vent is actually a floor drain. This floor drain was pretty tall, so I just stuck it in my vise and I cut it down to size so that it would fit inside of here. The on-off switch is actually not even going to mount to this front board. I'm going to mount it to another board that's going to be at the right distance. I'll work on that next, and then we'll start putting components inside the box. All right, let me show you what I came up with over here. I've got this board mounted here at the right depth so that when I put the face on the camper power station, we'll just stick this on there. There we go. You can see that switch sticks out at the perfect distance. Before I stop for today, I really want to get this battery situated where it's going to live inside this camper power station. I'm going to use some of the packing foam to isolate the battery inside the box. This stuff cut really easy. All I used was a Japanese pole saw. I cut a channel on the bottom under there. This is going to set on the bottom, and it's going to allow air to go under the battery from the fan through the box. This thing is just going to slide right on in there, and it's just going to slide forward just like that. And I'm probably going to use some spray adhesive in there. I'll apply some to the bottom, I'll spray some down in there and push that down so that it doesn't move. Let's see how this Bluetooth lithium battery fits down in there. That's going to be perfect. And then I'll cut a piece of wood to trap it on the top as well. We're going to move into the next phase of the camper power station, which is assembly. We're going to start putting all of these components inside this box, which means we have to find a home for everything. This is our to-do list today, and it is daunting. There is quite a bit on there. We're just going to start picking things off one at a time and try to get this list done. We have 4 holes we have to drill into this box for all of our charging ports. We have a 2-pin charge port that's going to be for the PWM charge controller. I have another one that's going to be for the alternator charger coming in. We have yet another one that's going to be for the wall charger. And then finally, we have the umbilical coming off the truck that needs to go into the box. So we have to position 4 holes so that we can make all that happen.
We're going to locate where we want to put the hole for the alternator pigtail somewhere right here in this area. And this is the hole for the solar port. I'm installing the entry port for the wall charger. It has a dust cover here that snaps shut to protect it. Pretty neat. Here we have the entry port for alternator charging. And this is where we're going to mount it here through this hole here. And on the back side, it's going to be connected to this, the DC to DC charger Victron unit. And we're going to mount it right about here. We have two more of these connectors to install. One is going to be our solar charging port, and the other one is going to be our umbilical cord for the lights and different things for our camper shell. So you may have noticed that these look identical. They are identical. So what we're going to do is label them, and so we can tell them apart. What's this? Oh yeah, we installed rope handles, so you can carry it around if you need to. Next, we're going to attach our two bus bars, and we're going to put those right about there.
All right, let's check off everything we have done so far. Bus bars we just did. Umbilical port, alternator charging port we installed. Wall charger port we installed. The solar charger port we installed. Victron, we identified where it's going, so that's installed. That's all the time that we have for today, but you won't notice because we'll be right back. It's a new day working on the DIY power station. I'm going to be picking up where we left off, installing components into the box. I'm going to finish installing the Orion DC to DC charge controller. I'm going to put this in here now because if I put the battery in, I won't be able to get my hands back there. These are the wires coming from the alternator charging port that we installed. I'm just going to install these on the input side, positive to positive, negative to negative. Now I'm going to connect positive and negative feeds to go to the bus bars on the output side. Now I'll crimp on some ends so we can attach these wires to the bus bars. Next, I'll connect the charge port for the wall charger. I'll just connect the positive and the negative to the bus bar. Next, I'll connect the camper shell umbilical power port to the bus bars. This is the port where the camper shell is going to plug in. This is going to power up all the lights inside the camper shell. Next, I'm going to hook up the solar charge controller. We've got power from the panel coming in from the port, and then we have power going out to the battery. That's going to run to the bus bar. I've cut these two gusset looking pieces of triangles out of wood. This is what I'm going to mount to the box for my solar charge controller because I think it will look pretty cool being at an angle like that. So these are just going to be supports that I'm going to glue right to the wood so that we can mount that controller right there. Let's talk about the cooling fan and how we're going to thermostatically control that cooling fan inside our DIY power station. Here I have a thermostat control switch and a USB port. I'll wire the port into the switch. When I power up this switch and set the parameters, that will turn on the USB port. I'm going to plug in our USB fan into the port. When the temperature inside the power station reaches the parameters that I set, it will turn on the fan and cool the entire power station. This is where I'm going to mount this thing. I'm going to tuck it back here in the corner out of the way. Wiring this temperature controller can be a little tricky. That's why I think it only has 4.2 stars. But I'm going to show you how to do this. Notice I bought a 2-pack in case I burned one up, I would have a second. But the price was right on these. I'm going to simplify this for you. We basically have the load side and then we have the feed side. This is going to the battery and then this is the load, which is going to be our USB plug. Let me show you exactly where to put these wires. Feel free to come back and pause the video here if you need to. This is the wire going to the battery, and you can see that the positive goes here on the end, and then the positive from the load also goes here on the end. The negative from the load goes all the way over to the far end. Both positives go together here on the end. The negative from the feed goes right next door. So negative from the feed, positive from the feed. Then we have a jumper wire. This jumper wire connects the two middle lugs. So I ran a jumper wire from here over to here. It is a little tricky getting two wires in there. I'm actually not going to power up the cooling fan to these bus bars. I'm going to connect this to the 6-blade fuse box once I install it. This is going to be the power source for all of our 12 volt that's going to live on the front of this power station. I can't install this until I put the battery in. This is the LiTime 1000 watt pure sine wave inverter. This guy is going to live right on the side of our power station. I've got to drill some holes, and we're going to connect these wires to our main bus bars. I do not recommend using the cables that usually come with this kind of equipment. These are copper clad aluminum, and I just don't like them. Instead, I recommend using this number 4 gauge pure copper welding cable. I use this on tons of projects. And again, guys, I'll put links to all this stuff down in the video description. This is my preferred method for making up the ends on this number 4 gauge wire. I like to use a hammer crimper like this one. This one is spring loaded and super easy to use. Let me show you how this thing works. Simply place the lug ring terminal in the hammer crimper and then put the 4 gauge wire inside the lug ring terminal. A couple of hits with a 3-pound hammer and you have a secure mechanical weld. I like to put shrink wrap on all my terminal connections. Installing the LiTime inverter was pretty straightforward. I cut my 4 gauge wire to length, drilled some holes, and then I connected the wires to the inverter and then to the bus bars inside of the power station. Before I can get the battery installed in the power station, I need to finish up a little bit of wiring. All of these 12 volt circuits that are on the front of the power station are going to be getting their power from this 6-blade fuse block. I'm going to be installing this right behind the battery. I'm connecting this fuse block to the main bus bars with number 10 gauge wire. Here I've mounted a blue LED light to the bottom of this fuse block mount. This is going to make a nice pool of blue light inside the box, so we can kind of keep an eye on things in there. I've cut this spacer that's going to lay on top of the battery. This is going to be the final piece that traps the battery into place. With the battery all secure, I think we're ready to power up the bus bars. We're going to do that here with the positive terminal down to the switch, from the switch back to the positive, and then from the negative on the terminal, we're going to go to the negative bus bar. That's going to give power to our power station. Once we do that, we can turn the power off to the bus bars and we can safely wire in all of our 12 volt circuits. The TrueMod 6 blade has 6 circuits. Let's talk about how we're going to break these 6 circuits down, and we'll get this front face wired in with all of our 12 volt circuits. Here's how I'm thinking I'm going to break down these circuits. I've got two 12 volt ports. Let's do 1 circuit and 2 circuits. I've got 2 of these USB plugs. Let's do 1 circuit and 1 circuit. That uses up 4. For our 5th circuit, let's run the LED lights and our cooling fan back here. It looks like most of these accessories came with wires that are already made up. That's going to come in handy. I've got all of the pairs connected to all of the 12 volt plugs. I've also got pairs run to my 2 outside switches. I've got them labeled right and left switch we're gonna run them down the right side of the battery. All the other wires I'm gonna run down the left-hand side. To attach the face of the power station, I have pre-drilled some holes and I have a countersink in there so that these will look pretty nice when I'm finished. Some of these leads are a little long. I'm gonna get them cut, get some ends on them, get them plugged in, and then I'll show you what I came up with. Let's make a lid for this power station. I'm gonna make this lid out of this Lexan. This is basically plexiglass. I want to be able to look down in there. I thought it would be cool to have this just kind of slide in there. So let me measure this and we'll get it cut and we'll see what it looks like when it's finished. It's so clear you can barely see it, but it fits perfect. All right, let's power this thing on. Let's give you guys kind of a first look. And then tomorrow, Roger's coming over with his truck camper and we're going to hook up the alternator charging and the umbilical to the wiring inside his camper shell. But let's take a look at this. Let me give you the rundown of which circuits I hooked everything up on this 6-blade fuse box. I've got a 7.5 amp 1 and 2. 1 and 2 are the 12-volt plugs right and left. Number 3 is USB right. Number 4 is USB left. Here, number 5 is all the LED lights. And number 6, I went ahead and hooked up the fan to its own circuit. That way, everything is protected. Let's test out the thermostat switch. I've got this thing set for 95 degrees, and this thing is going to power up the USB, which in turn powers up the fan. I am going to put the probe in a cup of hot water over here. Let's put this thing in the hot water. Temperature's going up. Oh, yes. It was 99 degrees, it kicked on, and we're up to 108, 109 degrees. The fan is on. Let's watch the temperature drop. And when it gets down, oh yeah, I can feel it coming out of the lid. Dropping, and 95 degrees. The light went out. This thing is working properly. Hey, look who's here, it's Roger.
Hey everybody! Today we're going to be wiring my camper shell with some light circuits and USB ports.
To do that, we're going to be using this fuse block, just like the one we put in the power station. We're going to figure out where we're going to put this and all the lights, and when we're done, we're going to show you what we came up with.
So what do you guys think about this project?
If you guys have any questions or comments about this build, leave them down in the comments below. We're working on a couple more videos with this power station, and we can't wait to make those.
And I will definitely give you a tour of my camper.
That's right, and when we're finished with those videos, we'll put links to them right here.
Thanks for watching.